Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Zenith, that podcast with an Amazon Prime drone, because this week we watched Orac,
Written by Terry Nation.
directed by Veer Lorimer, again, back.
And aired on March 27th, 1978.
Yeah, so
Season finale. Already at the end of Season 1, Series A, whatever you
we're a
want to call
quarter
it.
of the way through the entirety of this show.
Yeah. And, never thought I would say it, but this was a very disappointing episode. I'd always heard that the season finales on Blake 7 were great, and this was probably one of, if not the weakest episode of the first season.
Well, I think it got pretty good about halfway to two-thirds of the way through this episode.
Which isn't necessarily
when
a
Blake
good
and
thing
Callie actually
in
finally
itself.
get to Ensor, that's when I think it starts to get really good. But until then, it's really rather boring.
Yeah, this obviously it picks up right where the last one left off, so it's basically the only Spacefall on the way back, but yeah, it's a two-parter, but it feels like it doesn't feel like there's enough story to stretch out over 90 to 100 minutes of content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is more evident in this episode than it is in the previous one.
Yeah, I was watching the first half of this episode, and I couldn't shake this feeling that this is really dull.
Yeah, I wasn't used to Blake 7 being so boring, so I wasn't even necessarily thinking that this episode was boring until about halfway through. I went, wait a minute, this kind of sucks.
Wait a minute, what's actually happened so far? I think the first indication that
things are going terribly wrong.
The first indication that things have not gone well in writing this episode is when Blake calls Avon. This happens pretty much straight at the beginning. Blake calls Avon
This
over.
is the first thing in the episode, basically.
And Blake goes, "Hey, Avon, remember what happened a couple hours ago?" And Avon's like, "Yeah, of course I do." And Blake's like, "Okay, just watch this anyway. Watch this recap of last week's episode with me anyway." And then it's like Blake apparently makes
he puts together a promotional video of the Federation's failures, I guess, or I don't know. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. I guess you can write it off. This isn't in the story. This is just me speculating. But I guess you can write it off as him making this expose about how the Federation is going to basically steal Orac.
I guess, but I was gonna say it sounds like Blake makes Star Trek captain's log entries after every voyage, but he just accompanies it with a really sick edit of the events that happened.
We haven't seen this so far, so it feels really out of place. First of all,
second off, where does he get the footage to make this video? Because it's not, there are shots of the outside of the Liberator from a third-person point of view, which there's no logical way the Liberator could have taken those shots. It's clearly footage that was taken from last week's episode, and there's footage on the planet too of the pod crashing, that apparently the Liberator has long-range cameras that can just take this footage.
There's also, I just don't know what happened in this beginning scene, because the first shot of the entire story, actually, or the entire episode rather, is the Liberator flying through space, which is not abnormal, but it's a really bad, I guess it uses some CSO or something similar, where it's not the actual model, it's just, it's just a film effect.
I'm okay with the scene in concept because I think it's supposed to mirror the end of the episode, which we'll get to in a bit. Because the episode also ends with the Liberator flying through space.
Yeah, but in the end, they use the model like they normally do. It looks fine. At the beginning, they do something similar to what it looks like in the intro sequence, which is just a sort of effect, and it stands out.
But yes, and also Blake's got a voiceover going over this video saying we found these two guys, Avon, Villa, Jenna and Gan beamed down to the planet, but one of them was already dead. The other one we brought up to the ship, and then he told us to take these power cells to go.
You completely left off the part where,
Avon becomes a legend and a god.
Well, that and the part where Ensor's son tries to kill them.
Yeah, really, really
skewing things here.
Yeah. So then Avon's like, I already knew all this, Blake.
Looks good to me.
He's like, good edit, Blake. We should push this to all of the television stations or the public broadcasting in the Federation. Why did you show this to me, Blake? And Blake's like, because something's wrong, Avon. Come with me to the screen where we're going to watch this.
Yeah, so they replay the part where apparently they caught on camera the pod ship thing exploding, the one with that had the Ensor's son and whatever whatever his name was, were flying. They caught that explosion on camera, and they play it black. They play it
black.
back. They play it back in slow motion, and they realize that the explosion is coming from a place where it shouldn't be coming from, which leads them to believe that it was a bomb that was planted on the ship.
Yeah, they don't really do anything with this information, actually, now that I think about it. They just kind of accept it, and they're like, I guess the Federation wanted to kill them, and then they just accept that.
Yeah, that's basically true.
Meanwhile, Jenna...
which we already knew.
Yeah.
As viewers,
yeah.
So...
I guess the whole point of the scene is just for a few missed last week's episode.
And just pad out the episode, which they clearly needed. This episode, unfortunately, because it's the season finale, clearly needed a lot more padding than anything we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Even more so than the web.
Surprisingly. So Villa, Jenna, Gan, and Avon are all having weird sickness issues, and Callie comes in and is like, you all got radiation sickness. Apparently, we forgot to scan for radiation last week when you beamed down to that planet, and you all you're just gonna die, like, in a couple days.
Yeah, Callie is really blunt about this, almost as if she wants them to die.
They are all criminals, really. You have to remember that all these people are criminals and wanted by the Federation.
Well, Callie scans their hands for radiation, I guess, and I really liked this scanner. Because of the cool sound effect it makes.
I mean, that's the sound effect that Geiger counters make in, like, real life, so...
I don't think I've ever heard a Geiger counter, but I don't know if it was an exact thing, like a sound effect, but I don't know.
Having used an actual Geiger counter about 2 months ago, yeah, it's
all right, yeah,
close.
You probably know that. To me, it sounded like, and I guess this is what Geiger counters sound like, to me it sounded like a string instrument that has the strings held down, you're plucking it. I don't know.
And then run through like a radio transmitter. It sounds kind of crackly.
Yeah. But anyway, it sounds cool. And yeah, they all have the radiation poisoning except for Blake and Callie because they never went down to the planet.
Yeah, and Blake's like, wow, we'll just give you guys some decontaminant drugs. And Callie's like, we've got none on board. There's no decontaminant drugs.
Yeah, she says this really bluntly too, almost as if there are decontaminant drugs and she's just hiding that fact. But she's probably not.
They should have just thrown in a telepathic line for Blake. There's totally decontaminant drugs on board.
Don't tell him. We'll give them to him at the last minute. If we don't make it to Ensor in time, we'll just pull him out and...
This is your opportunity to off Avon, Blake. I know you've been thinking about it.
Oh, God.
So...
I mean, we can't prove that didn't happen.
No, we can't. That's a good point, you know.
What if
Callie could just be telepathically communicating with everyone and we wouldn't even know.
Turning them all against each other.
Yeah. Anyway, they basically decide that since Aristo is the closest planet and the only one that they'll reach in time, they're just going to hope and pray that Ensor has decontaminant drugs on the planet or they're going to die.
Villa, again, being the actual sensible one, is like, but what if he doesn't? What's our backup plan? And Blake is like, don't worry, he's going to have them.
Phil's also like, I can't die, and Avon's like, unfortunately you can. It's the one talent we all have.
And this is something that's weird, and I think I've noticed this, but I haven't really mentioned it or put it into words so far, is that Villa he's the comic relief character, right? Mm-hmm. But he's actually the most sensible one on the ship. It just seems like everything he says is a joke or sort of funny because everyone else counteracts him with seemingly more authority. But they're actually just doing the reckless thing, whereas he's the one who's actually, being sensible.
I think that's kind of the point, though. I think the point is that these guys are reckless and they don't actually know what they're doing. They think they're doing the right thing, but they don't actually know. And that Villa, even though he's reckless in his own way, is the most sensible because he, they make his suggestions out to be really, really silly. But when you sit down and think about it, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's like the plexiglass map again that Villa runs past, and I was gonna point out
Etch-a-Sketch thing on this one though.
I was gonna point out that this is really weird to have a plexiglass printed map of the entire galaxy, I guess. because the positions of everything changes, and also it's like really big to print out. But anyway,
And they have like a really powerful computer with a view screen
yeah,
showing
that
it can
too.
demonstrate maps. I think Zen has put up maps for them. I
Yeah.
don't know. I really don't know.
So then we cut to Ensor, and he's like, "Ah, yes."
Watering his
Just he
plants,
feeds his fish, and then he waters his plants.
and he's like, "All right, good to go." And then he reveals his chest plate thing,
And he
which
keels
isn't
over in
more.
pain.
It isn't much of a plate. It's more just a little device that he has to hook up to something. He's like, "Oh no, not much time left now."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he doubles over in pain,
And
and
then
that's
he,
all. And then
well,
he
then the Travis and Servalan land.
well, actually, I think in this first scene with Ensor, he's talking to someone. You don't know who it is. I knew who it was. You don't know who you don't know who it is. And at the very end of the scene, he calls it Orac. So that's your
Yeah.
reveal of Orac.
Yeah, so Servalan and Travis have landed because he tells Orac that what they want is him.
Yeah.
Orac's like, "Oh yeah, 2 people have landed," and Ensor's like, if they were friendly, they would have tried to make contact. Just full security measures and just let them die.
Yeah.
Because they're coming for you, Orac. They want you.
Yep. That's the Orac reveal. And then we cut to Travis and
that still doesn't really reveal that Orac is a machine.
no, it just reveals that the person Ensor was talking to is Orac.
Yeah.
Again, I already knew what Orac was before even watching this or Deliverance.
I didn't, but I did know that the guy who voices Zen voices Orac in every episode after this one, so that gave me pause.
Yeah. Anyway, Travis and Servalan are on the beach. We didn't mention that Aristo it's an Earth-like planet, but it's just covered by water more. So there's less land, more water,
Yeah.
and the water's like acidic. So don't jump in.
Don't go swimming on the beach. So then,
Travis and Servalan just bumble about for a bit, just really unmenacingly. They were such good villains when they were first introduced, and they were good multiple times after that. But
Servalan loses all of her like menace in one scene in this story when the amphibian grabs her from behind and she's just yelling, "Travis, help me, Travis!" And I'm like, "Don't you have a gun?"
Travis has already lost all of his menace. Let's be honest.
Travis is just a walking joke at this point. Probably because he fails so much.
He fails so much, and it's just a result of that thing where the more you bring back a villain, the less menacing they appear to be. And I think that's not necessarily the case, but I think that coupled with Travis's repeated failures.
Yeah, that's the thing is that I think the reason why Travis at this point doesn't feel menacing is because they didn't throw him any sort of bone at all. He always gets to the point where it looks like he's going to succeed and then he fails. And he's done it so many times, you honestly just don't expect him to win anymore.
Yeah,
like if he'd like killed one of the Liberator crew, or if he had actually captured the ship and they'd been without the ship for an episode, then he'd seem more menacing because he would have actually succeeded at something.
Yeah, I mean the closest he even comes is in Seek, Locate, Destroy, which is his first appearance. After that, he pretty much fails more miserably than he did there.
Yeah, and even what's his name in Bounty comes closer than Travis.
Tarvin. Yeah,
Tarvin
we mentioned that in
succeeds
Bounty. Tarvin
more than
is
Travis.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean we talked about this on Trust Your Doctor, our Doctor Who podcast too. We often mention how the Daleks don't really seem menacing the more they come back. Yeah, I think that's true there too. When the Daleks almost win, like Genesis of the Daleks, they almost won. They had the Doctor Davros had the Doctor in a really bad position there, and that in that story they actually felt menacing. They felt like a threat. So maybe it's not so much just the repeated appearance, but also just the repeated appearance with the fact that they fail so much.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And after this episode, even doubly so, Travis, if you can believe it, is even less menacing after this episode. So, Servalan too. Servalan I think they've done a good job of making Servalan seem really menacing because she's kind of been in the background running things from behind the scenes. And in this episode, she kind of goes in and tries to get her hands dirty, and I think it kind of
that
makes her feel a little less menacing as well.
It falls flat, especially with the scene with the amphibian. Servalan, I agree, was actually done better than Travis until this point.
Yeah. But yeah, so they end up going into the tunnels because they have to go under the force wall, and then we don't see them again for another 20 minutes. So
yeah, do we see the force wall in this scene? I don't even remember.
No.
I know we definitely see it when Blake.
We see it when Blake and Callie show up, but we don't see it now. Anyway,
So we need to make a
Orac,
note of how much worse it looks than even the other effects on the show.
Orac. Oh wait, my award for this episode occurs when Servalan and Travis are going underground because Servalan pulls out a map. This is my award for prop most likely designed by the prop designer's kid, because this map is, number one, really poorly drawn. Number two, shows absolutely no information that could be of any value at all. It just says enter here, and then just has a straight line forward, straight line down, and then like an exit that says Orac or exit here. And I'm like, there's no way you would know where the entrance is. There's no way you could even follow this map underground because it doesn't tell you where to go.
Yeah, this was my award too, and I think my actual note of it was when it shows up a bit later in the episode. It shows up again, I think. Or maybe I'm just misremembering and it's actually just here. But yeah, I gave my award to Servalan for best cartographic interpretation ever for actually reading this garbage map.
Oh god, we both gave an award to the same thing.
Maybe we should, I've been thinking about this, maybe we should, nix the awards and start doing another like interesting segment for Series B. Maybe just switch up, the thing we do for each series. That might be interesting. Although I have no idea what we would do in place of the awards.
Well, we have a week to figure it out.
So. Yeah, that's enough time.
We figured out more complex things in regards to podcasts in a week. Let's be honest.
Yeah, this podcast was basically set up in a week.
It was a very stressful week. Anyway, Blake and Callie... Well, okay, wait. Before Blake and Callie beam down, Orac basically takes over Zen and is like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, we're bringing the power cells.
Okay, he turns off all the lights and like turns on a purple light. So.
Okay. He turns Zen from orange to purple. Yeah, I've always associated Blake 7 with the color orange for some reason. I think because the Blake 7 words in the logo are orange.
Yeah, they're like yellow-orange.
I directly lifted the color for our logo, so the color on the side of the words.
Yeah, it looks actually a lot brighter when it's in the logo itself.
Yeah, I think I darkened it a touch because it looked, when I put it in with the logo and the white font and the white Federation logo, it looked like really bright and overbearing. So I think I darkened the orange a little bit.
Anyway, yeah, Orac takes over Zen and tells them they need to. Actually, I forget what he tells them here.
Well, he asked them what they're doing, and they said, "Oh, we found these two guys. One of them was Enso's son. He told us to bring these power packs." And then Orac is like, "Oh, I see you have teleporter capabilities. I'll set coordinates for you. Come on down." So Callie and Blake go down, and Avon mans the teleporter, and it looks like the teleporter sequence gets increasingly more complicated in every episode. And also, it looks like they've only got 4 teleporter bracelets left.
Also, it looks like Avon, Villa, Jenna, and Gan are about to just keel over and die. There's that weird scene later, and I want to mention it now because I'm going to forget if I don't, where Jenna and Avon are in the teleporter room just waiting for Blake and Callie to come back, and Gan is also there, but he's like hiding behind
the teleporter box?
I don't know.
The teleporter bracelet box, which apparently is on wheels.
Yeah.
That's never been established before.
He's just hiding behind there, and they find him for some reason. I forget why.
He's like snoring or something.
Yeah, and they're like, Gan, what are you doing there? And he's like, I just didn't want to be alone. I was like, so you decided to come here and hide?
Yeah, and sleep on the floor? Then they get into like an argument, and Avon's like, fine, you guys can all stay. And Gan's like, Villa's in his room trying to convince himself he's not dying. This radiation thing was clearly just an excuse to put these 4 characters out of commission for this episode. Like, let's not even dance around it.
And have some nonsense scenes that don't even forward the plot with them, like, in the...
Yes.
Yeah. This story also, unlike pretty much every other episode so far, didn't really have 2 distinct parts. It was just one thing.
It kind of did with Servalan and Travis, but that was all of 3 minutes of the story, so...
I mean, it almost seemed like... Because in the first half of Bounty, there was... it was Blake and Callie sort of trying to find what's-his-face. And then once they found him, he sort of explained what was going on. He was like the figure they were looking for. He was a pretty famous guy, which is similar to Ensor, except that happens way later in this episode. We also didn't mention the info dump about Ensor, which is that he created something, I forget.
Some sort of like crystal chip that's in every computer in the Federation, apparently.
Yeah. And that is related to what Orac even is, which is revealed pretty soon.
Yeah. In regards to Blake and Callie going down, I was just realizing this. I guess Blake has just replaced Jenna with Callie for all of his away missions now because there was Bounty, and then in the last episode, Deliverance, Blake and Callie didn't go down, but Blake and Callie were the only two left on the ship. And then in this episode, Blake and Callie are the only two who go down. So that's three episodes in a row.
I don't think Jenna even actually went down to any planets except the one in Duel, I think. I don't think she ever actually went down to any other planets.
She went down once or twice more. In a couple rock quarries. With Blake, anyway. I mean, she definitely went down last week with
Avon. She went down last week.
With Avon.
I can't think of any more than that, though. But oh well.
There was that one where she just straight up volunteered herself. Like, yeah, I'll go with you, Blake. I can't remember what episode that was now. And Blake and Callie just sit by this obelisk for 2 hours, apparently, until this little drone comes up and is like, take off your weapons. And they're like, no.
Well, they find the force field first. Callie wonders whether it's keeping them out or it's, closing them in. But it looks really terrible, so it's only visible when you touch it. So Blake touches it a couple times, and it's just this green... It's just a line.
Green line superimposed on the screen.
It's not. They don't even attempt to even curve it. They don't attempt to do anything interesting with it. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to fault them for it.
The green line doesn't have any effects applied to it. It's just a lime green line.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, I know the show's made on a budget, obviously, and it's from, the late 70s. I don't expect anything, fantastic by today's standards. And, for the most part, I really enjoy, how they make things look on this show. It looks pretty, considering the budget they're working on, the time frame they're working on, when it was made, most of it looks pretty good. This one I will actually fault them for, though, because this didn't look good, even by their own standards.
Yeah, it was just disappointing. And I'm glad it only appeared in this scene and not anymore.
I think I'm reeling into this more than I otherwise would have, because this is the season finale where you think things would be better, where you think they'd put a really strong story and just, give their all for the season finale, but they just didn't.
Unfortunate.
Anyway, yeah, the drone shows up and it tells them it's going to kill them if they don't cooperate.
They're like, okay, guess we'll cooperate. So the drone leads them through the force field to a teleporter. Then we spend legitimately 5 minutes trying to figure out how to get into the teleporter. But they eventually do, and they go down.
It's not actually a teleporter, it's just an elevator.
It's just a lift, yeah. They go down, and they're walking through these corridors, and they find Ensor, and he's really snappy at him. He's like, so which of you is the surgeon? And they're like, we're not surgeons. We didn't know we had to perform surgery.
We were just told to bring these power cells to you.
Yeah, if Ensor's son had mentioned that they needed to perform surgery, then Blake and Callie could have looked up the surgery on Zen before they left.
Yeah, freaking Ensor's son.
And taken all the medical equipment down with them.
And then Ensor reveals that the guy who delivered the packs was his son. And Callie says, oh, I'm so sorry, basically in that exact tone, again, almost as if she just doesn't care about anything that's going on around her.
Well, she probably doesn't.
I mean, okay, she probably doesn't care about this, but
yeah.
I just feel like Jan Chappelle just didn't give much effort in this episode. Just feel like this whole episode was just low effort overall. Just a poor showing from everyone.
Zen put in a lot of effort, I feel.
All right, Zen is always good. Peter Tuddenham,
right? Yeah,
I think is his last name.
Yeah.
He's always he's always there to redeem the show if it never goes sour. No, I don't know.
And like I said, he voices Orac after this week, so I guess
it's going to be interesting.
More.
I hope he I hope he differentiates the voice enough, because Orac and Zen actually sound very different in this episode, at least.
Yeah, and I wonder if or how they're going to explain Orac's voice changing. We'll see.
I mean, they're probably not going to explain it, let's be honest.
Yeah, let's not set too high expectations here for Terry Nation.
Plus, if you're watching this as it aired, it's a year later, and your Orac only had a couple lines. It's not like you'd even really remember what he sounds like.
I forgot to mention the Terry Nationism for the creatures in the
tunnel,
the Phibians, which are clearly amphibians with the first syllable chopped off.
Because we skipped the scene where Travis and Servalan, we kind of touched on it, are going through the underground passages, and Servalan gets attacked by a Phibian, and
This is the scene that
Yeah.
to me like really
destroys
made her
Servalan's character.
made her seem like really unmenacing because she just starts screaming for Travis, and I was like, you have a gun first off, and second off, you clearly know your way around things.
Also, the Phibians look pretty bad, first of all.
Yeah.
Again, even by this show's standards, the Decimas even looked better. And there's a lot of shaky cam-esque stuff around the Phibians, so you don't see how bad the costume looks.
Yeah,
They're
well, at
dark
least
and they
didn't,
blend in
like,
with the...
Peter Gilroy, this Born Identity.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, the Phibians are also...
Or was that Paul Greengrass? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I didn't like the Bourne series enough to even remember or
I
care.
think it was actually Greengrass, now that I think about it.
The Phibians sort of blend in with the background. They're sort of dark and you can't see them that well. Also, it looks as if it's just clinging on to Servalan's leg very, very weakly.
Yes.
And yeah. You know, maybe if the scene was done better, it wouldn't have destroyed all of Servalan's credibility.
The scene, for a brief moment, actually reestablishes some of Travis's credibility for me, because he just walks in, shoots the Phibian really calmly, and then just walks away. And I was like, yeah. But then it just collapses again, so...
Yeah.
Travis,
Anyway.
it looks like they kind of buffed Travis up for the story. I didn't remember him looking like he had such big pecs in the past couple stories. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
I mean, I didn't notice that. Servalan's also not wearing that dress thing that she normally wears.
She is still wearing white, though.
Yeah.
Which I
It's
still
a foil
find
to
interesting.
Travis.
And yeah, so Ensor is like, well, Blake's like, you could come to our ship and we could perform the surgery there. And Ensor's like, yeah, well, I guess I'm dying. And it's like, I either die here doing nothing or I die trying to save myself. So sure.
Right, because we didn't mention that before Ensor went off the map, he had a heart attack that nearly killed him, but they replaced his heart with mechanical heart.
Yeah, because the planet he was on was like technologically not as advanced as the rest of the Federation, so they didn't have like a proper donor heart to give him, so they gave him this mechanical one.
Yeah, and they say that if he had kept cooperating with the Federation, he could have gotten a replacement, but he didn't.
Because
So
Callie's like, why didn't they replace it with like a proper one when he went back? And then the Blake's like, that's the thing, he never came back, he like ran away.
yeah. So they decide to go back to the Liberator to try and save Ensor.
This is when it's revealed that Orac is a computer, because Ensor's like, this is Orac. And this is also when it's revealed that Terry Nationism I brought up last week I saw on Twitter about Orac probably being short for Oracle is true.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. So Orac he looks kind of cool. He's a box, basically.
I really like the Orac prop, especially later when they show it close up and the lights in it look like they're spinning around the central orb. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement. It's a clear box. There's a lot of movement inside. There's circuitry that you can see. That part was really well done.
Mm-hmm. And Enso basically explains that he built a back door into his chip design that Orac can access. So basically, Orac can access every single chip that Enso designed.
Yeah,
it's every Federation computer.
It's like that Y2K bug conspiracy thing. Like the Y2K fix is like spyware, but actually,
it's
not
also
sure how
that
nobody noticed this. But
it's also that thing like there was like that controversy about a year or two ago about, I think it was, I don't remember what company it was now, but a company was like installing spyware into like on the chips
companies
they installed in their computer, and someone found out, and there was a huge uproar about it.
I mean,
as there should be, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of companies put spyware on their products. It's no secret.
Yeah, but this was like they hard coded it into the actual process of the computer.
Turns out Ensor also installed backdoors into his compound because Travis and Servalan show up, and Blake, Callie, and Ensor and Orac, I guess, just leave through another door.
Yeah, because they had to leave their guns on the surface. If they had brought the guns, Travis and Servalan would probably be dead now. But yeah, so they're going through the tunnels now. Callie gets grabbed by a Phibian. Blake just kind of beats it with a rock.
I forgot about that. Blake just picks up a big rock and just smashes the Phibian.
Makes it seem like the Phibians actually aren't all that powerful at all.
No, they're really not. And, I think the Phibians were just added either just to have a creature in this or just, again, to pad it out. because what are they even? They're not scary. They're not well done in terms
Why
of
do they
what
live
they
on this
look like.
planet? What do they eat? They seem to be the only living creatures on this planet.
Yeah, they make mention there's plants in the ocean. They actually, it's interesting. They actually give quite a bit of story to this planet, more so than other more interesting planets. Actually, this planet had human or human-like civilization, but it was all destroyed when the sea level rose, and now it's just plants and apparently also amphibians.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Meanwhile, on the Liberator, I want to bring this up now, actually, because I keep forgetting to bring it up, but Blake actually refers to the Liberator as just Liberator without the in front sometimes.
yeah. I wondered when they started doing that. I noticed it, but I could have sworn they were calling it the Liberator for a long time.
Me too, because when Orac contacts them, he's like, "Who is this?" And Blake says, "It's Liberator." And I was like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
It reminds me of
Firefly.
Actually, it reminds me of Star Trek Enterprise, where Captain Archer refers to his Enterprise just as Enterprise. We're from Enterprise and not the Enterprise, partially to differentiate it from the other two Enterprises that appear in Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, that's also it's a big point on Firefly, and they do it a couple times where people say the Serenity, and Mao is like, no, it's just Serenity.
Yeah.
And that show is obviously inspired at least partially by Blake 7, so I think that's directly lifted in from Blake 7.
Probably
in that case.
I feel like things like that are, I guess, in universe up to the captain's discretion. I feel like it's more natural to say like the Liberator or the Enterprise or the Serenity. Although I like I said, it's just at your discretion, I suppose. It's like whether you consider your ship a person or not. You wouldn't refer to like your friend Bob as the Bob, and unless you're us on Trust Your Doctor and you keep slipping when you call our companions the Rose.
Or I mean, if you consider the ship like almost as
or like
your own
city,
like a city or a country, right?
We're from Enterprise.
Yeah.
We're from Surrey. I don't know why Surrey is the first city I thought of. What the hell? Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. I guess nomenclature. Would that be the word?
I guess so.
So yeah,
Ensor dies before they can bring him back up.
Yeah. Anyway, the point I was trying to make with the Liberator was that Avon and Villa decide to beam down to the planet. That's what I was trying to get to there. But I remembered that I wanted to bring up the fact that Blake called it Liberator.
Yeah, they're almost dying, and Avon sort of just wakes up, and he goes and wakes up Villa, and he's like, all right, we gotta go down.
And Villa's like, you woke me up. And Avon's like, Blake and Callie haven't come back. We better go down there. So they beam down, and then we don't see them until the end of the episode.
Yeah, well, Ensor dies. We basically see them now in how we're going to explain it, because there's just a lot of running around now.
Well, so Servalan and Travis, okay, this also confused me, because Servalan and Travis make it into Ensor's room right as they leave, and Servalan just picks up this map that's lying on the ground, and I'm like, why would Ensor have a map of the compound he's lived in for 40 years?
Oh yeah, this is the instance that I made my note for the award.
So we give our awards to two different maps. Why are there so many maps in this story?
But this one was equally just not easy to follow, not representative of really anything.
There was absolutely no indication of where they were standing on that map either. So then just figures it out immediately.
Yeah, this part actually really restored her credibility to me. Her excellent map reading skills are just... No, I'm just kidding.
Servalan, God Emperor of map reading. Yeah, I was just like, why would Ensor have a map of this compound that he clearly built and has lived in for 40 years? Like, you would think he would know where everything is, right? Anyway, he dies. Servalan and Travis take this alternate route to get up, which is quicker, apparently. And
Ensor, come on. Well, I guess they couldn't just go wherever they wanted, because Travis and Servalan were storming about.
So Blake and Callie are about to beam themselves up, but then Travis and Servalan corner them and like, well, we're going to kill you and we're going to take Orac. And Blake's like, yeah, I imagine Travis will kill me with or without orders from you, Servalan. She's like, with orders, Travis. And then Avon just shoots Travis's hand off.
Does he shoot his hand off? I thought he just shot him in the leg or something.
No, he shoots his hand off because there's this... Then the very last thing we see of Travis when they're walking away is that it zooms in on his hand and it's like exposed wiring.
Oh, huh. All right.
Yeah, it's like super unclear.
Star Wars.
About
Although the hand stuff was in Empire Strikes Back, which is after this.
Yeah. But yeah, he shoots Travis's hand off, and Villa's like, good shot. And he's like, I was aiming for his head. So Villa walks over to Blake and Callie, and then they just walk over and beam up. Avon's about to kill them, but Blake's like, no, I'll tell the Federation that they'll let us go. Let's see them try work their way out of that one. And I'm like, how would you tell the Federation that? The Federation hates you. Since when would they take communication from you? Maybe they'll use that code machine they picked up in... what was that story they picked it up
Seek,
in?
locate, destroy.
Yeah.
Didn't they already say that the Federation changed their codes and the machine doesn't even work anymore?
I don't remember.
I think that was a line in some story.
I guess they don't need that machine anymore now that they have Orac, which is tapped into all the Federation computers anyway.
And every computer.
They just keep giving Blake more and more powerful technology on the show, which just makes it more and more impressive that Blake hasn't actually made like a dent in the Federation yet. Like, Blake is like a really incompetent leader when you really get down to it.
Yeah, no, he actually is. Anyway, now the episode gets interesting. Because they start using Orac, this device that they hyped up so much in Deliverance and then was a small part of this episode. Because, I mean, he was the goal for most of the episode, right? That part was fine. They just didn't, and they didn't use his cool...
Well, they did kind of.
I mean, not really. The Ensor uses it to like a really stupid small degree.
Well, so Ensor basically explains that Orac can make predictions about the future. And then they try to talk to Orac about it. And he's like, future, past, present doesn't mean anything to me. And they're like, what are you even saying, Orac? And Villa's like, I don't like him. Can we turn him off?
Yeah, Orac is very evasive, doesn't answer their questions. He's worse than Zen, basically.
Yeah. Villa's like, he's very good at being evasive. And
there's some funny banter here. I don't remember.
Blake is trying to get him to make a prediction, and Orac's like, "You won't have to. I can do my commands better if your commands are succinct and to the point." And Villa just says, "Make a prediction," and then Orac's like, "Okay, I'll make a prediction for you," which I thought was kind of funny. But he projects this image on the screen, which is just a Liberator flying through space, and Jenna's like, "Wow, what a prediction! We're going to be flying through space. Bloody hell, I could have predicted that." But then Orac's like...
They turn Orac off, but the prediction keeps running, which is strange.
No. Orac says, before they turn it off, Orac says, the Liberator... the ship... he just says, the ship is going to be destroyed. And they're like, what? And then they turn Orac off. And then, I guess it's unclear what happens right now. Because Jenna goes, Blake! And then you see the Liberator blow up, and I guess
you see it almost. It's almost as if you're seeing it on the view screen, so you don't know if you're seeing it on the screen or if it's actually blown up.
Yeah, it's unclear if it's the real Liberator blowing up or if like the prediction kept going after Orac was turned off, which wouldn't make sense.
But I think they actually say that like Orac's off, the prediction's still running or something.
Well, no,
like that.
Blake says the prediction's already been made because they turn him.
I'm pretty sure they say look at the screen, it's ongoing or something like that.
Well, what Blake says, they turn it off, and then they're like, oh, good, so it's off. And then Blake says, we're forgetting something. The prediction has already been made. That's exactly what Blake says. The prediction has already been made.
There's definitely a line in there where they like point to the screen, and they're like, look, it's still running.
If there is, I missed it, because my recollection is Blake says, oh, the prediction's already been made. And then Jenna just says, Blake, and points. She just points off camera, and then it cuts to the Liberator blowing up.
Yeah, so sort of it's a definitely cliffhanger ending here.
Yeah, I guess.
What if Blake 7 didn't get renewed?
I mean, if Blake 7 didn't get renewed, I guess it would have been a fine ending. Liberator blows up. All the loose ends are tied up, really, except for Travis and Servland, who you wouldn't really care about if Blake and the crew are dead.
I mean, yeah, their mission would be accomplished.
I mean, I read that Gareth Thomas didn't really want to do his second season, but he was contracted to do so, so he said, yeah, he would come back.
Yeah.
I think Sally Nivette had a similar situation as well.
Yeah. A lot of the main cast was pretty much over it after this season.
I think Paul Darrow was down with it, considering he was like best friends with the guy who's editing all the scripts. And I think like Michael Keating also...
He was obviously okay with it. I mean, he came back
still
again.
Having fun with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, they took that poll.
Villa and Avon are the ones they're giving all the like good lines to, so.
That's true. Well, yeah, because then they, Terry Nation wanted to kill off Villa because he was like, I don't like Michael Keating's interpretation of the character. But then, like I said last week, they took that poll of character popularity, and Gan fell dead last. And then Villa was like in top 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean,
there's 8 people on the Liberator now, right? If you include Orac.
Yeah, with Orac,
so that's
So
interesting.
we're gonna have to cut someone out next
Time to cut the dead weight.
But yeah, it's interesting looking back over the season at Villa, because in the first episode he is pretty sinister. You know, you don't really see any. There's no comic side to Villa really in the way back. But then after that, he's sort of the comic relief of the ship, which I enjoyed. But maybe Terry Nation didn't really see that as something that Michael Keating should be playing up.
I mean, I enjoy it as well, and I think it's kind of necessary.
Yeah, I think it's necessary.
I think maybe his sinister aspects fell away when they introduced Avon, because I think a lot of them got picked up by Avon. I think Avon is, in my opinion, the most sinister of the crew.
I think Gan is.
Well, Gan to an extent, but I think Avon's the one who's like most dangerous on the crew, because he's definitely, I think, made out to be the most intelligent member of the crew, and definitely the one who has the most plans of killing Blake or leaving the Liberator at some point.
He's demonstrated, multiple times, like very clearly, not just like an implication thing, that he's willing to either leave or just sell them out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of what goes on between Blake and Avon. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously. But
I know bits and pieces.
Yeah. Should we do a sort of season retrospective here?
Yeah, I mean, let's look back on Series A and remember the good times. If this was a
The
TV
good
show,
times
this is
before
when
Orac hit.
you start playing the sappy music and it's just a clip show. No, well, I think Orac is honestly, I think they had to introduce something new to the show at the end of the season. I don't think they could have continued making another 13 episodes exactly in the same vein as they did this season.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with Orac. It's like the computer Orac. I have a problem with the episode Orac. I actually like what they did with Orac when they used him in this episode. Like I said before, the last 5 minutes of this episode are the most interesting part of it. But just the episode itself, the series just ended on the worst episode of the entire season.
Right.
Which is, in my opinion, not something you would necessarily want to have happen. Maybe if you have a weaker episode and it's going to be weaker and require more padding, put that elsewhere. I think by the end of this season, I think they were just grasping at like what to do, how to fill out the time slot.
Well, that
production was rocky. So,
and also I was going to say they didn't have the opportunity to move it because, like we've mentioned before, this show was made on a very compressed schedule where Terry Nation would deliver the script like 2 weeks before they were even filming. So I don't think it was feasible that they would even know the story would be weaker until most of the season had already aired, and at that point there wouldn't be any way to move the episodes around because they would have just filmed. They were filming like an episode, 2 episodes from the end the week that the script for this would have been delivered. So I mean, I'm not going to fault them for putting a bad episode at the end because that kind of falls on Terry Nation's shoulders, I guess, because he delivered the script like halfway through the season. Really,
I know why. Like, I don't know, but like based on the production stuff that I know, it's clear to me why this episode is weaker than all the other ones, and it, because it comes at the end and the challenges they faced with that. But I'll definitely fault them for it. I mean, it was managed terribly. Terry Nation wasn't pulling his weight.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm not going to fault them for not like moving it earlier in the season.
Oh no, yeah. I'm not going to. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I think the whole production was managed poorly, which is why it's kind of like a miracle that the show is so great.
Well, I think this episode also clearly demonstrates why next season they go, Terry Nation, you're not writing all 13 episodes. We're definitely bringing in other people. We're going to bring in Bob Holmes. We're going to bring in Chris Boucher himself, and we're going to bring in other people to write episodes of the show because clearly, I think they realized by the end that having Terry write all the episodes, I think Terry realized it as well.
I think he realized it like week 3. He's like, oh God, I can't do this.
So, but yeah, I just think that introducing Orac was also a necessity looking forward. Like, I think if season 2 had been another 13 episodes of like Seek, Locate, Destroy, and Breakdown, where it's just...
Well, Travis and Servalan have definitely run their course.
Yeah, if it had been another 13 episodes of just this season, I think it would have gotten real old real quick. So I think introducing they need to introduce something, and I think it was good that they introduced a computer that can like make predictions. Whether or not we're going to use him well is I don't know. Although I have heard, based on what I hear, that later seasons are better than the first season for Blake 7. That the show only gets better. So that's what I've heard anyway. And yeah, I mean, this is a good television show so far. I really enjoyed season 1.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. Like I mentioned, the production of this is, or like we keep mentioning, the production of this was like rocky at best. So I'm surprised that they actually managed to make such a good show out of what they had.
Sometimes I think it's like shows that have rocky productions or questionable productions sometimes come out better because that means that the people working on it put a lot more effort into getting things done and trying to get it done and trying to make it good. I mean, obviously that it could go completely the opposite way. Yeah. It could just come out being absolute garbage. But I think in this case it worked out that, with the rocky production, I think that like all the actors, Chris Boucher especially, all really put in a lot of effort trying to pull their weight to bring the show together because of the rocky production that was going on with the BBC.
Yeah, sure. Should we do a favorite episode, least favorite episode thing? It'll only take a second, so my least favorite...
I'm going to have to pull up a list of episodes because I don't remember the names of all the episodes.
Oh. I mean, my least favorite was this one, Orac, and my favorite was definitely Duel.
I think my least favorite was definitely Orac as well. This episode was just really dull. I liked Project Avalon quite a bit. I think I'm going to say that was probably my favorite one of the season. But they were all good
except Orac. I wouldn't call Orac good.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just 12 really strong episodes, which 13. Is
12. Okay, besides Orac. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sorry.
Which is surprising. Not many TV seasons are just completely good.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but this one pretty much was. So
yeah, I think it's difficult to do an entire season of
strong stories,
strong episodes. Yeah. So, yeah, good show. Blake 7.
Looking forward to watching the other 39 or however many.
39.
Yeah.
You can email us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, or your thoughts on Orac, both the character and the episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts at Zenith, a Blake 7 podcast. Find us on Google Play, also at Zenith. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. Please leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're starting Season 2/Series B with Redemption. But until then, the end.